She's got smooth curves, a tight leopard print, and the louder she screams, the sexier she is. No, I'm not talking about your mom at a Jodeci concert in 1995. Wow, we're starting off like that this week. Well, we are talking about the sexiest T-style guitar ever made. It's the guitar that most people thought was a Fender Telecaster. This is the H.S. Anderson Mad Cat, better known as the Prinze Tele. I'm Thom Tran, and this is the show where I go in-depth into my guitar collection and that of my friends to give you all the nerdy gear goodness like specs and pricing, but also the story, both historic and personal, about these rare and special instruments and how they got into our hands. This is the story behind the strings. And how do these instruments get into our hands? Well, usually it starts on reverb, and sometimes it ends with a divorce settlement of some kind. Wish that wasn't kind of true, but this is my custom-made H.S. Anderson Mad Cat replica T-style guitar. Before we get started, do me a solid and hit the like button, subscribe to the show, and share the episode with a friend. It really does help the show. And we're still on target for 5,000 subscribers, and when we get there, I'm giving one of you a free guitar. Details on that giveaway at the end of this episode. As always, let's start with the specs for this sexy little beast. However, there are several different versions and reissues of this guitar. Mine is a custom-made replica of the 45th anniversary reissue, but we'll be talking about the 2018 Mad Cat Vintage Reissue version 2, because that's the one that's most readily available for purchase. But we will quickly talk about how you can tell them apart so you know what you're getting if you're in the market to buy one. According to MadCatGuitars.com, the 2018 version 2 is said to be closer to an original 1984 Mad Cat. The company said that after the 2012 reissue, they took into account feedback from customers, dealers, and owners of the original Mad Cats and made some changes to the 2018 re-release. The guitars were made in Japan in small batches, which is why they're so rare. The body is made of a walnut ash maple combination in this beautiful flame with a polyurethane lacquer. The 2018 version 2 reissue came with Heartbreaker custom-made pickups that are said to better replicate the tone of the 1984 original that the company acquired. You'll find one volume and one tone knob with a four-way selector switch. With that four-way switch, you get the following pickup combinations. In position 1, you get both pickups in series. Position 2, you get the neck pickup. Position 3, you get both pickups in parallel. And in position 4, you get the bridge pickup. One of the immediate differences you'll find from this 2018 model versus, say, my replica is that on the 2018, the bridge pickup is just almost parallel to the bridge, while on most other versions, it's more angled like you'd find on a standard Telecaster. The stripe down the middle of the body makes it stand out, and of course the distinctive leopard print pickguard is what caught Prince's eye, and it's what Prince fans and guitarists associate with his royal purple funkiness. You'll find some variations of this on most Mad Cats and replicas. It's also got a leopard print output jack, and the version 2 has a black body binding as opposed to the leopard print binding on other editions. The 2018 model has a Goto GTC 102 hardtail bridge with Calum USA vintage bent steel saddles, and it's got a maple neck with 21 frets, a C-shaped neck, and a 9.4 inch radius. You've got an almost Telecaster style headstock. That's one of the differences you'll find between the various reissues. Early on, the headstock was a flat-out Tele copy, so of course Fender's legal department got involved, and the 2012 and 2018 models have what I like to call the fishhook headstock, making it just different enough to avoid copyright issues. And then there are the Hohner Prince versions, which is a headstock that is bordering on copyright issues. The logo on the 2018 version is pearloid with no border around the font and a stylized Mad Cat font at the end. Whereas the 2011 45th anniversary has Mad Cat cartoon graphic, and some of the vintage models had a silver logo with black font border and non-stylized Mad Cat font. There was also a left-handed model that was made for an additional cost, but that came with a black headstock logo. And the 2018 reissue 2 also came with an SKB 66 case with full neck support. Oh boy, okay, so there is a lot to know about buying and selling these guitars, and I'll probably get something wrong, and if I do, just let me know in the comments below. But If you're in the market for a Mad Cat, here are the big things to keep in mind. The OG Mad Cats from the 70s and 80s are very rare and very expensive. There are also tons of cheap Chinese knockoffs. Some of them very close, and some of them not. There is also the 2011 45th anniversary model. There's the 2012 version 1 reissue. There's the 2018 version 2 that we've been talking about. You'll also find the Bill Lawrence version and the Eastwood version. There are also models in different colors. And I've even seen a Strat-style Mad Cat. So if you want to buy one, here are some simple rules. Super cheap usually means fake or knockoff. Super expensive means it may be vintage or not. And anything in between, man, it could be anything. Now I know that's not super helpful, but there are just so many versions, both official and not, and the prices vary wildly. I've seen OG models listing for nearly 20 grand, and I've seen Chinese knockoffs for like $300. I would say if you're buying one first, what are you buying it for? Is it gonna be a collector's piece that's gonna hang on the wall? Is it gonna be a gigging guitar? Are you playing in a Prince cover band? And what are you willing to spend? Because if you go online right now, you will find them from anywhere between a couple of $100 and literally tens of thousands of dollars. Now, who is H.S. Anderson and how did he create one of the most recognizable T-style guitars in rock history? Well, he kinda isn't anyone exactly. The H.S. Anderson guitar was made by the Morris Guitar Company, so let's start there. What's the Morris Guitar Company? Mr. Toshio Moridaria and his namesake Moridaria Guitar Company was the first distributor in Japan to import both Fender and Gibson guitars. In addition to importing, Moridaria also handcrafted instruments in Nagano, Japan. In 1964, Moridaria visited the Gibson factory in Kalamazoo, Michigan, where one of the employees nicknamed him Mori, probably because he couldn't pronounce Moridaria. No shade, I'm Asian and I actually had a tough time with that pronunciation. This is actually the 7th time I've had to record this section. Anyway, in 1967, Moridaria started the Morris Guitar Company, using the nickname he was given just a few years earlier. Then in 1973, Moridaria launched the H.S. Anderson brand.
And an employee named Mr. Hidesato Shino designed the legendary Mad Cat. And Hidesato is where the brand got its name. HS for Hidesato and Anderson for
Thom Anderson, the character from The Matrix played by Keanu Reeves, a movie that wouldn't come out for another 26 years. All right, that doesn't check out, but I don't know why they went with Anderson. Probably they wanted an American-sounding name, and H.S. Smith doesn't have the same kind of ring to it. Anyway, at the time, Japanese instrument manufacturers were getting really good at copying US brands like Fender and Gibson. There was the lawsuit era where Ibanez Guitars was making Les Paul copies that were nearly identical to Gibson's. And it's generally accepted that the mid-1980s Fender Japan Strats were better than what was coming out of the post-CBS era Fender US factories. But the Mad Cat was completely different. A tele-style body based around a walnut center block with a maple top and bottom, but ash sides. The bridge and pickups weren't what you'd expect from a tele either, more like what you'd find on a hardtail Strat. And of course, the leopard print pickguards and binding that gives the guitar that sexy flash of style is what you would expect from an artist like Prince. About 500 original Mad Cats were made starting in 1973, and at some point, Morris Guitars sold the rights to the German musical instrument company Hohner. Yes, the same company that makes harmonicas. And Hohner's guitars were made in the same factory, looked a little bit different, and rebranded with Hohner's logo and called the Prince. And then the lawsuit came. One of the reasons people thought these were Telecasters was because the headstocks were nearly identical to a Tele. Fender sued, and eventually they'd be reissued with a more distinctive, non-Fendery headstock. And around this time, in the late 1970s, is when Prince is said to have acquired his first Mad Cat. Legend has it that Prince bought his Fender knockoff at a gas station for $30. Now, nothing about that sounds right, but it was Prince, so who knows, it probably actually did happen that way. The leopard print pickguard on the Tele copy matched his stage clothes and amps at the time, which were covered in fur, according to an article on ultimateguitar.com. Over the years, it became a mainstay in Prince's arsenal, using it to record records like Purple Rain and Controversy. It had pickups swapped out several times, it had a wireless system built into it, and exact replicas have been made for the purple one by luthier Roger Sadowski. Famously, it was tossed into the air at the end of his guitar solo at George Harrison's Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction jam during a tribute version of While My Guitar Gently Weeps, featuring Jeff Lynne, Tom Petty, and an all-star band. I remember being told that he threw the guitar up in the air and it just never came down because gravity doesn't apply to Prince, and I believe that because it's Prince. But during my tour of Paisley Park for my birthday this year, our tour guide confirmed that Prince threw it to his longtime guitar tech, Takumi Satsugu, who promptly handed it to Oprah Winfrey. But the queen of daytime talk insisted that she couldn't keep it and gave it back to Prince, and its exact whereabouts to this day are unknown. But there is a Hohner version on display at Paisley Park. Now, if you've watched other episodes of this show, that you know that I am a huge Eddie Van Halen fan, judging by the 6 other episodes that I've done about his Ernie Ball Music Man guitars, the PV Wolfgangs, and my custom 5150 painted Music Man Eddie Van Halen signature model. Ed had a huge influence on me as a guitarist, but Prince had an even bigger influence on me as a person. His playing, his songwriting, his style, his approach to life, everything. This is how much Prince meant to me, and I talk about this in my one-man stand-up show. I hate heights. I don't like roller coasters, I don't like flying, I don't even like going to get the cookies on the top shelf in my kitchen. But one of the first full songs I ever learned on the guitar was Raspberry Beret. Now, what do those two things have to do with each other? I joined the US Army's Airborne Corps, a group of people who jump out of airplanes because our distinctive unit headgear is a Raspberry Beret. I mean, technically it's maroon, but let's call a spade a spade. I've only owned a couple of teles in my life. I think I had a Squier tele once and a Korean-made FMT at one point, but they were always my least played guitars. I've never felt like I needed a tele, except for the Mad Cat. And like I said earlier, it looks like a tele, but it's got the heartbeat of a Strat, and it just sounds and plays different to me. So there isn't a crazy story about how I acquired this other than, at the time, they were pretty hard to come by. But it does hang prominently in my living room with my Raspberry Airborne Beret on the headstock, next to the photo of Prince playing one of his Mad Cats. There you go, a longer than usual, very special episode of the Story Behind the Strings featuring my H.S. Anderson Mad Cat, aka the Prince Tele. Have you played one of these? Did you know that this wasn't actually a Fender Telecaster? And Prince's solo at the Hall of Fame jam. Great solo or greatest solo? Let me know in the comments below. As always, please like the episode, subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends, and tap the bell icon to be notified when a new episode drops. It really pushes the algorithm along, it helps out the show, and lets other people know what we're doing here. Thank you to everyone who's already subscribed to the show, and we are still in the hunt to hit 5,000 subscribers. When we do, I'll be giving away that Sterling by Music Man AX20 that I featured back in February. To be entered to win, just subscribe to the channel, leave a comment on this video or any full episode. If you want to become a Patreon patron and further support the show, you can be a roadie, gear tech, or hired gun. You'll get cool swag, shout-outs, and you can help pick out what guitars I go behind the strings of. And you'll also get tickets to one of my stand-up comedy shows if I'm playing in your town. And you can find out about my tour dates on my website, TomTran.com. You can grab one of my custom tees, which this clearly is not one of, at TomTranShop.com. You can follow me on all the usual places like Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok. Links to everything are in the show notes. Thanks for watching, stay purple, and let the strings tell your story.